focus of the retreat is oftentimes the content. Because we notice that that's where a lot of the couples are lacking within the church context. So we deliberately plan this to be heavy in terms of content. Very little is done on the leisure bit. That doesn't form our central focus in planning these events. Have you said? Good to go?
Ready to Zoom? There was a domestic issue, so thankfully they are fine.
Okay. So they'll be joining us?
No, they had to rush to Accra for an emergency issue. So when we came from the trip, that's when they had to leave. They left, I think, about 5:30 there. And Rebecca sent her regards to all of you. This dawn, she sent me the link to her program on Facebook Live. You did listen. Okay. Yeah, it was quite an insightful presentation, the justice of God.
Yeah.
I like the way she attends to thematic areas which is not regularly being taken care of on radio.
Yeah.
Because there's too much frenzy about evil, demons, devil. And, there must be a balance between demonic attacks and how we fight it and how we live our lives as human beings. May I kindly ask the Johns to kindly come to this table for the sake of the recording. At least if you come this way. Or maybe the first seat here so I can see you well. Because we missed Bridget after her, adventure to Afajato. You have water here. Tango for.
She didn't go to Afajato.
No, she didn't go to Afajato. So you can imagine if we had added Afajato.
Exactly.
We'd have to get a carrier, special carrier for her. It was good. It was a good experience, I think. But I like Albert, the role he played. At the point, I had to support him because I noticed that boys are brave. I really admired the way he was going about it. Very easy, cozy, reducing his pace. Because he's rich alone. One rich of Albert, or part two from Bridget to catch up. Yes, if we came this way, I think that will also help us. Okay, I guess by now you are done with the evaluation. In your folder, you would find a material titled A Parable, the Christus, a Parable, the Persona. So we're going to ask one lady to read for us what is in there. Because of the capturing, we need it read. Then one gentleman will take the persona. Before we commence, this morning we're looking at build it right and godly. Build it right and godly. It's so important. So, which of the males or females would read for us? There's one microphone here. Fear not, we clean the microphones. We have sanitizer there, so from time to time they clean it. Okay, so Ifwa is doing that of the women, and then any brother ready to take up for the men? Okay, Afeni is also doing for the men. So there are two different parables. For those who came in a bit late, we prayed.
Okay.
Now I encourage you to look for the book. It's titled The Life God Blesses. It's by Gordon MacDonald. He's a very influential author. Having come out of personal crisis, he wrote a book to help persons hopefully avoid crisis. Yes, Efwa, please start.
Once a foolish man built, facilitating spiritual growth, a parable, the persona. Once a foolish man built a boat, his intention was that it will be the grandest, the most talked about boat that ever sailed from the harbor of Boat Club, of which he was a member. Thus, he determined to spare no expense or effort. That the boat builder would come to be known as a foolish man had nothing to do with his ability to build, nor did it have to do with his capacity to work hard. It also was not a reference to his personality, for he was a most pleasant person. People often said this, none of this, that he came to be called a foolish man had everything to do with qualities of person. Invisible qualities, one might say, that no one was initially able to appreciate, but to say anything more about this is to get ahead of the story. As he built, the foolish man outfitted his craft with colorful sails, complex rigging, and comfortable appointments and conveniences in its cabin. The decks were made from beautiful teak wood. All the fittings were custom made of polished brass, and on the stern, painted in gold letters, readable from a considerable distance, was the name of the boat, the persona. As he built the persona, the foolish man could not resist fantasizing upon the anticipated admiration and applause from club members at the launching of his new boat. In fact, the more he thought about the praise that was soon to come, the more time and attention he gave to those aspects of the boat's appearance that would attract the crowd and intensify excitement. Now, and this seems reasonable, because no one would ever see the underside of the persona, the man saw little need to be concerned about the boat's keel, or, for that matter, anything that had to do with the issue of properly distributed weight or ballast. Experienced sailors might wince at this, but one must remember that the boat builder was acting with the perceptions of the crowd in his mind, not the seaworthiness of the vessel. Seaworthiness seems not an important issue while in a dry dock. On one of those occasions when he was sorting out his priorities of time and resources, he said to himself, "Why should I spend money or time on what is out of anyone's sight? When I listen to the conversations of people at the club, I hear them praising only what they can see. I can never remember anyone admiring the underside of the boat. Instead, I sense that my yachting colleagues really find exciting the color and shape of the boat's sails, its brass fittings, its cabin and creature comfort, decks and wood texture, speed and the skill that wins the Sunday afternoon regatas. So driven by such reasoning, the foolish man built his boat, and everything that would be visible to the people soon began to gleam with excellence. But things that would be invisible when the boat entered the water were generally ignored. People did not seem to take notice of this, or if they did, they made no comment. The builder's suspicions were correct. The people of the boat club understood and appreciated sails, rigging, decks, brass, and staterooms, and what they saw, they praised. Sometimes he overheard people say that his efforts to build the grandest boat in the history of the club would someday result in his selection as Commodore. That had no little effect upon his conviction that he made good decisions and was on a correct course to boat club acceptance and success. When the day came for the boat's maiden voyage, the people of the club joined him at dockside. A bottle of champagne was broken over the bow, and moments came for the man to set sail. As the breeze filled the sails and pushed the persona from the club's harbor, he stood at the helm and heard what he had anticipated for years, the cheers, the well wishes of envious admirers who said to one another, "Our club has never seen a grander boat than this. This man will make us the top of the yachting world." There were some boat owners who joined him, sailing on either side and forming a spectacular flotilla as they moved out beyond the breakwater and into the ocean. Soon the beautiful persona was merely a blip on the horizon, and as it cut through the swells, its builder and owner, who at this moment seemed anything but a foolish man, gripped the rubber with a feeling of fierce pride. What he had accomplished. He was seized with an increasing rush of confidence that everything, the boat, his future as a boat club member, and probably as a Commodore, and even the ocean. Why not when one is feeling confident? Was his to control. But a few miles out to sea, a storm arose. Not a hurricane, not a squall either. There were sudden wind gusts in excess of 40 knots, waves about 15 feet. The persona began to shudder, and water swept over the sides. Bad things began to happen, and the poise of the captain began to waver. Perhaps this ocean wasn't his after all. How about connections with other club members? The ones who sailed from the harbor on either side, cheering and waving. He looked about for them, but none were to be seen. The boat had The boats that had been there in the early part of the voyage had turned back long ago. He had been too self-absorbed to notice. Besides, other captains knew storm clouds when they saw them. Within minutes, the Persona's colorful sails were in shreds. The splendid mast was splattered in pieces, and the rigging was unceremoniously draped all over the bow. The teakwood decks and the lavishly appointed cabin were awash with water. And then, before the foolish man could prepare himself, a wave bigger than anything I'd ever seen held down upon the Persona and boat capsized. Now, this is important. When most boats would have righted themselves after such a battering, the Persona did not. Why? Because its builder, this very foolish man, had ignored the importance of what was below the waterline. There was no weight there. In a moment when a well-designed keel and adequate ballast might have saved the ship, they were nowhere to be found. The foolish man had concerned himself with the appearance of things and not enough with resilience and stability in the secret, unseen places where storms are withstood. Furthermore, because the foolish man had such confidence in his sailing abilities, he had never contemplated the possibility of a situation he could not manage. And that's why later investigations revealed that there were no rescue devices on board. Rafts, life jackets, emergency radios, and the result of this mixture of poor planning and blind pride, the foolish man was lost at sea. Only when the wreckage of the Persona was washed ashore did the drowned man's boat club friends discover all of this. Look, they said, this boat lacks an adequate keel, and there is far more weight above the waterline than below. They said more. Only a fool would design and build a boat like this, much less sail in it. A man who builds only above the waterline does not realize that he has built less than half a boat. Didn't he know that the ocean is dangerous? Didn't he understand that a boat not built with storms in mind is a floating disaster waiting to happen? How absurd that we should have applauded him so enthusiastically. There were a few old men and women off to one side who heard these things and quietly commented to one another. We do not remember that anyone mentioned these things when the foolish man was building his Persona. What's the use of such questions when his boat is a wreck and he is nowhere to be found? The foolish man was never found. Today, when people speak of him, which is rare, they comment not upon the initial success of the man or upon the beauty of his boat, but only upon the silliness of putting out an ocean where storms are sudden and violent, and doing it with a boat that was really never built for anything else but the vanity of its builder and the praise of spectators. It is such conversations that the owner of the Persona, whose name has long been forgotten, became known as simply the foolish man. The one who values this discernment will ask, what does this story mean? And soon discover that the answer to the question. And the one who cares little for insight will dismiss the story and likely go out and construct something similar to the foolish man's Persona. From the life God Blesses by Gordon MacDonald, Nelson, 1994.
This is a very, very harsh story, if you ask me.
The first time I read The Life That God Blesses was in South Africa. I'd gone for some training, and the lead trainer asked us to do a review of the book in 2 days. And we were required, as part of the training, to finish it before we came for the session that he was going to facilitate. And for me, it was a shock of my life, because I'd never been to a training where you're given a book and expected to finish in 2 days when you're going to review it.
because that means that every paragraph is connected to the other. If you know about inductive Bible study, that's the methodology they wanted us to use. And Rev Okoye is a scholar in that area. It's one of his key strengths as a pastor. I want you to look again, recast the personal story and relate it to your own marriage. Because there are a lot of things folks aren't doing it right. And it's partly because of where their focus really is in constructing the marriage. So what we're going to do now is you're going to set as a set of 4. So Sandra and their friends, you have to come this way. You discuss persona. I'll be raising some questions in the air. Just take note of them, paragraph by paragraph, before we come to the Christos. Because, brothers and sisters, we cannot afford to get it wrong. Yesterday, Rev said something, and his daughter immediately his 2 daughters were actually following the conversation, one in the US and one in Accra. And she posted an emoji, if you saw it. And it was when he said, "What would I tell my children if I fail?" And we all have a duty to ensure that marriage looks attractive for our children. If your children look at marriage with disdain, we have failed. Those closest to us, our friends, should not look at our marriage and repudiate it. Because that would be a very bad taste in the mouth of Jesus as his praise. And you know, we are called out of darkness to show forth God's praise. And people should see the difference between just vain applause and giving God praise. Because we're not here to build a Tower of Babel, building a name for ourselves. 3 years ago, some young men walked into my office and said, "Elder, we've been following you and we want to brand you." I said, "Brand me as what?" So when we brand you now, you have a corporate image and appeal, and it means that you're going to charge to make money. You know. I said, "Really? That's not my heart, oh bro. It's not my heart." I'll share with David. 2 years ago, my bank account was closed on account of retreats. It's going to cost you. It's not because there's a guy who is doing what is called the divorce hotels. He's building them all over the world. Now when I saw his video, I said to myself, "God, whilst he's providing this at the point where marriages are faltering and falling apart, help us to also build it right so that we don't need that." And you are an ambassador. In fact, next year we're elevating the couples to a mentoring level, where everybody who's on a conflict page will be required to be mentoring a couple. If you're not ready, we'll ask you to exit, because we've got to have some benchmarks. You've been married for 3 years. It's enough time to mentor somebody who is 1 month. I mean, we are now celebrating 20 this year in November.
Amen.
And yet we're bringing couples together. Why? We don't have to get to 50 years in marriage before we can encourage others that we struggle with some things. You don't need to struggle. We pay the price. Unfortunately, what I see is a lot of people, I've been through it, you to go through small. Why? If you can help them avoid that, help them. Okay, so now we can come into our partnerships and have the conversation. So take your tables. Now, what was his focus? You should have the original somewhere there. Paragraph 2. What was his error? What was his error? It's here, sorry. Can I take it? What was his error? Paragraph 3. Why was it called persona? Why was it called persona? Paragraph 4. What do you find wrong with his desire and expectations? Because he had a desire, he had some expectations. Paragraph 5. Why with his reasoning? The next paragraph, how did public opinion affect him? Because there was a drive to be selected as a commodore. And there were specific things. The next paragraph, what does the onlooking world what did the storm or the tempest reveal? The next paragraph, how are couples becoming self-absorbed and ignoring the essential building blocks? How are couples ignoring the essentials and becoming self-absorbed, or becoming self-absorbed, ignoring the essential details? The last but one on that page is between color and convictions. Where is our focus? Between color and convictions. Where lies our focus? In this last paragraph, the very, very last line, there's a concept there called below the waterline. To build below the waterline. But that takes us to the final page. What enables a boat to withstand the storms? From that text, the paragraph that is there, the very first paragraph on page 3. The next paragraph.
withstand the storm.
What are some rescue devices that we need? What are some of the rescue devices that we need? The next paragraph is a short one, but what was the conclusion drawn after a review of his actions? The conclusions that were drawn after his actions. The next one. Why did he fail to build with a storm in mind? Last year spoke at the church on the subject, build your marriage with danger in mind. And the pastor, he actually asked me to choose my own topic. So when I said that was what I was going to talk about. So well, why are you going to frighten my people? But that's it. The next paragraph is just a very simple question. What had happened? What had happened? When the old men were talking, what had happened? Because something had gone amiss. Then the next one. Let's discuss why people get so fixated on the outward, ignoring the inward and the lower parts of the boat that we're building. And finally, there's a concept there called the vanity of the builder. I want us to discuss that. The whole thing about the vanity of the builder. Please, you can start.
Because of aerosols.
So we'll start with paragraph 1 to 4. Paragraph 1 to 4. You may have to come here to the front, whoever is reading for you.
Okay, so paragraphs 1 to 4. The first question was, who or what was the focus of the builder? And we said that his focus was on the observers and then on how they would admire his end product. So the people around him and how they would admire what he was doing. What was his error? His error was that his focus was wrong.
That's right.
That's our conclusion. His focus was wrong. Why is it called the persona? He said it's called the persona because he was building it for self-aggrandizement. The funds he will receive from what he has done. Then the fourth
I think it's coming from this side.
We're looking at paragraph 5 to 9. The question 5 was, why is seaworthiness crucial for a vessel? We felt that for every vessel to be worthy, it has to be tried in the sea instead of sitting in a dry dock. And the purpose of marriage is key. Okay? For the vessel to be seaworthy, you have to try it. For marriages to be successful, it has to withstand storms in the marriage. And then we linked it to marriage. Your marriage has to be real. We don't need to act with the perceptions of the crowd in mind. And then also, we need to build firm foundations that will withstand storms in marriage. The 6 is looking at how our couples ignoring the underside of the canoe. So we said that with this particular sailor, he was interested in spending money on the aesthetics, the things that people will praise. Why should I spend money on the underboats when it is not visible to anyone? So, just like most marriages, we are focused on the outward appearance, giving in to the pressures of society instead of standing firm by the values and the purpose of God in your marriage. So this is very key. You need to identify what is your purpose in the marriage and work towards it instead of looking at what the society is talking about or what will make society sing praise of you. And the 7th one asked about what was wrong with his reasoning. We felt that his reasoning was he wanted to build something that would be most thought about, interested in the pleasantries of the club members. To link it to the marriage should focus on the purposes, your goals, your objectives of the marriages and any relationships you might have. So you need, as a couple, to decide what are your purposes, what are your goals, what are your objectives, and work towards it. Instead of letting the outside world dictate what you should do to please them. And then the eighth was looking at public opinions, kind of related to the seventh one. The public opinion made him focus on non-important things, like a we looked at what was the outside world's perception. The outside world is always looking at essentially what is not important, the aesthetics, the beauty of things like that. If you focus on it, then you'll be forced to always look at what the outside will be talking about. A beautiful house, beautiful car, beautiful kids, instead of concentrating on what God's purpose for you is in a marriage. Leading your children, letting your marriage be a living example for others, like Reverend Nicole said. Let your marriage be an evangelizing tool for people in your church, people in society, people at your workplaces and all that. So basically that is what we have.
Thank you very much.
Paragraph 10 to 14. So the first question was, why was he later described as a foolish man? Now, we found out in that text that just when the boat had moved, it was filled with ecstasy. And so the overconfidence made him jubilate too early. So it's like the excitement we get over the ceremony of the wedding, forgetting that the devil is in the detail. And that the greatest test or the quality of the boat is when the storms come. Because if the storms have not come, you can't boast about your marriage being the best.
Exactly.
So he was excited too early. And that was also due to the fact that he was overly confident in himself. So we need to pay attention to the details. And that's why oftentimes, in as much as it is beautiful when we're doing all the amazing things with wedding, the colorful things, it's beautiful and you have all the money. But sometimes the truth is that people do it to impress. And at that point, they feel they've succeeded. But the work has not started.
Is that why they call premature ejaculation?
That's how you call it. That's exactly it. Premature ejaculation.
We're also talking about the same thing.
So he was only exposed when the storm came. And the second question was, what did the storm or the tempest reveal? Now, the storm revealed the weakness of the foundational issues. The foundation was weak. And so, for most of us even here, a lot of the things we have come to learn today, we realize that all this while our foundation has not been that strong. And for most of us, it's like that. And it scares me because very few of us will have these privileges. There are many people who don't even see the essence of it. I mean, this is my first time experiencing it, thanks to my wife. Today is my birthday, so she said, let's come and do this. We'll crown it with your birthday. And it's been an amazing experience and the greatest gift we can give to this marriage. So thank you, Ekia.
You're not my passion killer.
So just like the Bible says in Psalm 11 verse 3, it says, when the foundation is destroyed, what can the righteous do? And for us as Christians, marrying in the Christian world, our foundation is God. Because He's the maker of marriages. Paragraph 12, it says, how are couples ignoring essential details and becoming self-absorbed? And we notice in that sentence that, of course, the man's focus was on the colorful display And so when we focus a lot more on the public praise and the things that require people to cheer you on, that's the point where you begin to ignore all the essential things you need to pay attention to in the marriage. Because sometimes people see things on the outside. There was a time I posted a photo of my wife and I celebrating her on her birthday or something. And even now we're not on good terms that week. But somebody saw the image on Facebook. Oh, this is a beautiful marriage. This marriage is doing so well. I just laughed. People don't know. Sometimes you do that to encourage yourself and to tell yourself you want it to work even though you are not on good terms. But somebody outside defines it differently, but they don't know. So a lot of times if you don't focus on the essential details and you focus on those physical things, we wear the same dress together, we are going to church, but I don't know even what in the house before we set off. So we need to focus on those essential details else we'll miss the mark. And then paragraph 13, it says between color and convictions, where lies our focus? And I think it comes back to the same thing. Convictions mean everything because color fades. Convictions ensure lastful things. A focus on color is often short-lived. And so that's the point for paragraph 13. The last point, paragraph 14, it says reflect on below the waterline. That phrase. So the answer is it comes back to the same foundation. Ignoring the foundation. And for us as Christian couples, the foundation is the godly principles that guide us. And so the man ignored all those foundational issues. And also for us in marriage, we think one of the main foundation issues for marriage is communication. And communication is deep. It's bigger, not just the physical talk. Recently, we had a counselor talking to us and he was giving us a breakdown of what he thinks communication is. And he calls it the culture of marriage. Where he says the C stands for communication, U stands for understanding, L stands for love, T stands for trust, the next U stands for unity, the R stands for respect. And when all these come together, the last part is enjoyment. Of course, communication is not just there's verbal, there's non-verbal. Even sex is communication, it's an act of communication. So for us, those are the foundational issues that we need to really consider. Because they are the things under the waterline, the critical things that will hold you up. Thank you.
Thank you. After 4, we'll have to sing happy birthday to you.
Okay, so we had from 15 to 21. And the first question was, what enables a boat to withstand a storm? And our answer came as attention to detail, safety, seaworthy safety devices and measures. And we oftentimes, if we compare this to our marriage or to marriages, we came up with the fact that reading the Bible together, these are some of the things that are worthy of keeping couples together. So obedience to the word of God and what he says about marriage and commitment, relationships, selflessness, company of friends, being careful of the kind of company of friends you keep around. The 16, what are some rescue devices we need? And from the passage, it listed a few of them: raft, life jacket, emergency radios, and all sorts. And we compared it to the Bible being our major tool or our major rescue device that we can fall on in times of need. Being able to forgive each other, the ability to know that this one forgiveness is for myself, and then it extends to the other person. Prayer, which is the number one device that every marriage needs, especially a Christian marriage. Communication are some of the things. And under these things, we also listed the ability to listen to your partner and to understand your partner. So acquiring the listening skills, the problem-solving skills, and in changing in behavior, which cuts down patterns in behaviors and all that. 17. What was the conclusions drawn after his actions? I think everybody concluded that, where they were Jimmy to build such such a boat without any of these things. There was no adequate keel, there was no waterline, all these measures that needed the boat to withstand the test of time. He ignored all of it, not because he didn't know, but he just ignored it. An answer we came out with, he underestimated what storm can cause to a boat built like that. And when we compare it to our marriages, sometimes we think, oh, Madam forget away, dear, let her come. And then you realize that that is the beginning of some problems in your house. If we underestimate some of these relationship issues or some there is nothing that you can do about it. Last but one, discuss why people get fixated on the outside. I think in our discussion, we realized that what is outside is easily seen and admired. So it's all about this one has done this. Oh, Charlie, vice me so fun, baby, So, Kenzie 2020. It's a very benchmark, and then more pressure by heart. So what is seen? The wedding between despite son and the wife, yes, exactly, Kenzie 2020. So it's more of what is seen outside. Everybody admires it, and you are pressured into. You are tempted to go with the flow. The last question, the vanity of the builder, discuss. I think what we came up was he did not pay attention to the unseen parts of the boat, and oftentimes we do not pay attention to what is not seen. So we ignore the little things that we think that nobody will see, the detailed ones, what's the word? The ugly ones, we try to ignore them and try to look all shepe outside. That is that will cause the sinking of every boat. Thank you.
So we invite Esther to share a thought.
We are there and our marriage is okay. So whatever that, even when we are not there, we want to prove that we are there. So the rush is one of the ways. And the other thing is that we don't put God as the center. Nobody will ask you whether you have your devotion with your wife, or you as a person, do you have time to pray? Do you have time to read the word for yourself? All these are things that people will never see. If you do it or not, nobody will see it. So not making God the center. At times we also think that we have arrived. It's working. We don't need God again. So these are some of the things that we do that ignore the other side of the coupling process. And then one point is taking things for granted. Even as a couple, how do you keep yourself? Do you intentionally keep yourself for your spouse? Will you wake up and make sure that does my mouth even smell nice? Your underparts, how the little things that you may think that are not necessary, or only the two of you have privy to. How are you taking care of the underside of issue? So, and how you even talk to him in private. How do you talk to your wife in private? In the public space, you may be, oh, honey, how are you? But, or the ignoring the person. You may be in the same room with the person for the whole day, not a single word. These are the underside of the boats that nobody is seeing. So we have to pay particular attention to it. And then one point was on the 8 points that what does the man's reasoning on the day that the boat was there, it was exactly what he expected. The people were looking at the outward and were giving praises and to learn the act of even observing people, because maybe we have the privilege of people being under us. Are we looking at the outward appearance? Oh, this couple, it's okay with them. Or we are taking the time to observe them and know that there may be the underside, which is not strong. It may be your siblings, their marriages, or your friends. Everything may be looking all right, but do we have time, or we behave like just the society, the expectation? Once the outside is okay, everything is okay. So we have to pay particular attention to some of these things. So this is what I would also want to.
Thank you so much. And I think that I am seeing the things I encountered in South Africa when I was introduced to this journey. And in this context, we are putting it within a marriage. I always looked at it in terms of ministry. People are not building resilience in themselves. So they get caught up with the applause of the people. Praise singing is very tempting. It has such an allure, and Pastor Kwe has been in the ministry for long, so he can share with us more on that. And when I look at people's marriages, I get very worried, troubled in my heart, because I see that many of them have ignored the very little things that actually construct marriages right. Basic courtesies. It's so basic that if you ignore it, you're going to have a nightmare. And I like what she related to. Undergarments, odor in the body, odor in the mouth, all those things. There are things that occur in life. But how are you managing it so that it doesn't become a storm in the marriage? Because once it becomes a storm, you notice that he talked about the storm and the hurricane. His was not a hurricane. It was a normal storm. And once sailors go on the high seas, they anticipate the storm. How is it that people go into marriage and don't anticipate a challenge, a difficulty? The practical English reader had a particular statement, may your way be rough. And he continues by saying, I'm not cursing you. I'm only foretelling you what to anticipate. Sometimes if you tell people, hey, it's going to be tough, they think that you are cursing them. Hey, Sax, you're here. one of my young men. He's very, very passionate. He's a man on the sax. He's a guest of the Assemblies of God churches. So I asked him, come and bless the couple with the sax ministration. So he's here. Good time to come. I'm doing the sax. Are you ready?
They'll come to sort me out.
Okay, they'll come and sort you out. So whilst we're at it. So now, I want us to take a stretch. Thankfully, when we're coming, I advertised this. There was a young couple who wanted to come. And then just 2 days before, they said, oh, we can come. And so we are donating a box of chocolates. And this is niche, produced in Ghana. It's not a bar. They are in small chunks. So when you open it, don't worry. We have enough. If you consume it, you get more. If you keep it, it's like manna. It must rot in your hands. So you can enjoy it. I mean, it came for you to. It's also energy boost as well because the bar is full for you. This is good. This is good. Don't worry about anything. This one is just once in how many weeks. So enjoy it. Let's take a stretch and then we'll come and do the crystals. Let's take a stretch. Enjoy the chocolate. atmosphere which is occurring right now to pray for Conclave 6.
In the name of Jesus.
We're looking forward to God doing something unusual, something extraordinary at Conclave 6. And I believe that God has a lot in store. Let us pray together. We're praying for logistics, we're praying for persons, we're praying for activities, we're praying for people with a selfless heart. For me, that's the requirement. It's an irreducible minimum. Selflessness. Let's pray. Let's pray. Bring before you that need. Lord, it is in your hands. Lead and guide us as we put together the logistics, as we put together the people.
It's Creative Couples Conclave Edition 6, blessing couples with the 3 big A's. Become altruistic, inspire adventure, and godly acceleration. Creative Couples Conclave is brought to you by conveners Amos and Evelyn Kevin-Annan. It's happening at the Volta Serene Hotel. Rate is 3,800 Ghana cedis per couple. Date, Thursday 29th April 2021 to Sunday 2nd May 2021. For inquiries, telephone 024-427-3368. 024-427-3368.